Hi, hello everyone. I'm Dr. Wing Lam. It's very nice to see you all again. Today we are going to have the revision on this class. What we have to do is first we have to open the PowerPoint file and let me share the screen with you. All right. Well, today we are going to have the revision on this class, on this course, and here is my contact information. If you have any questions, just feel free to send me an email and I try to answer the question as soon as possible. And this is the agenda for today's section. And we are going to divide it into three major parts. The first one is I'm going to have a demonstration on the SPSS analysis. We are going to work on some analysis that you have already learned in this class, including correlations, t-test, ANOVA, and regression. And then the second and the third part, we're going to work on some SPSS exercise. And I will ask you to work on alone. And then, I'm going to demonstrate to you and look into the possible answer for this SPSS exercise. And here is what we want to do for the demonstration. We are going to use the data file of week 6 exercise data file. And then, we are going to do 4 analyses. The first one is correlation. And we're trying to investigate the research question about the relationship amongst different variables, including gender, age, education, job tenure, and emotional engagement. We want to see whether all these variables will have the relationship or not. By doing the correlations, will give us some general ideas that how and to what extent that the variable may be correlated with each other. And then, we will move on to the second research questions. That is there a significant difference in emotional engagement for male and female employees? We would like to see whether male and female employees will have a difference in terms of the emotional engagement. Emotional engagement is the psychological attachment in their work. Say, for example, whether the employees, they feel that they're psychologically attached in their job. If it is, and so, it is very likely that they will put a lot of the efforts, being so hardworking in doing their job. And we are going to do the t-test for these research questions. And number 3, we will run the ANOVA test on the research questions about, is there a difference in the emotional engagement for young, middle-aged, and old employees? And finally, we'll also work on the multiple regression analysis to test the research question about which is the best predictor of emotional engagement at time 3, gender, age, education, or job tenure, which one is the best predictor when controlling for emotional engagement at time 2. Let's move on to the first research questions. That is the correlation. We would like to see the relationship among all these variables, including gender, age, education, job tenure, and emotional engagement. So, what outputs that we would like to see from the analysis? First, we would like to look into the mean score of all these variables and also the standard deviation of all these variables from the descriptive table. Second, we will also refer to the correlation table, and so to look for the R index as well as the p-values, and to give us the conclusion that which variables are related with each others. And next, let me open the SPSS file and show you and how we are going to work on this correlation analysis. All right. When you open the SPSS file, to work on the correlation, first we have to click on Analyze, and next is Correlate and Bivariate. And we have to put all the variables that we would like to test into the variable box. And here is gender, age, education level, job tenure, as well as the emotional engagement at ×3 under the variable box. And on the right-hand side option, we have to click on means and standard deviation and click on continues. And please remember that we also need to choose Pearson under the correlation coefficients. And finally, we click OK. When we do the analysis, when we test our hypothesis, we usually work on the correlation at the first stage because we would like to see all the key variables involved in these studies, whether they have the correlation or not. And usually, we will put all the variables, including the control variables, the independent variables, mediators, as well as the dependent variables to do the correlation analysis to see whether they are correlate or not, whether they have the relationship or not. All right, anyway, and then when we click on OK, all right. Unfortunately, because I cannot show you the SPSS output directly from the screen, and so I have to copy and paste it to the work file, and I need to open the work file for you. All right, and here's the work file. The research question, well, as I mentioned, we are going to investigate the relationship amongst different variables from the descriptive statistics table, and you can see that, well, here is the mean score for that. The mean score for the variable is, for the gender is 1.55, and for age is 2 because, well, we are using the category anchor, and for educational level is 1.86. And for the job tenure, we are using, well, in month. And well, from this statistic, we find that it's around 23.6 something months as the job tenure on average for this sample. And the standard deviation is 22 point something. And so as you can see that, well, there is a big variation for this sample in terms of the job tenure in month. Some of them are really very new employees in this case. And more importantly, that what we would like to see is the emotional engagement and time frame out of 7. And here, the mean score is 5.7 something, 5.7 something. And so we can see that, well, the mean score is quite, well, is relatively high over, well, the 7 points. And next is the correlation. And well, a few index that, well, we have to pay particular attention on. Number 1 is here. The relationship between age and education level. The p-value is significant because it's less than 0.001. And you can see that there is a negative relationship between age and education level with the R equals to negative 0.39, negative 0.39. And the p-value is highly significant and shows us that, well, both the variables will have the negative relationship. It means that as long as the age increased, the education level in general decreased because there is a negative relationship. And next, we can see there is a negative relationship between the education level and job tenure in month. And the p-value is also highly significant because it's less than 0.001. And there is a negative relationship negative 0.26. And again, well, we can see that, well, as long as the educational level increased and the job tenure in month decreased. And well, finally, we can also see that, well, there is a negative relationship between education level and emotional engagement at time 3. The p-value is less than 0.05. It is not really super highly significant, but still is significant. The p-value is less than 0.05. And we can see that there is a negative relationship between education level and emotional engagement at time 3. As long as the education level increased, the emotional engagement at time 3 seems decreased. And so that's why there is a negative relationship. For the rest, we cannot see, well, any significant relationship for other variables. So this is what we can see from the correlation analysis. All right. So we have already finished the question number 1 to test the correlation. And next, we will work on another analysis. The research question is there a significant difference in emotional engagement for male and female employees? From this research question, as you can see that there's only one dependent variable, that is emotional engagement at time 3. And well, there is one independent variable, gender, but with 2 categories, because male and female, 2 categories. In this case, we need to perform t-test to see is there any significant difference in emotional engagement for these 2 groups. What outputs that we are interested in? First, we have to look into the group statistics table. That is the mean score for the variables. Second, we will also look into the independent sample test table. That is the Levene's statistic, as well as the corresponding p-values. Besides that, we will also look into the p-value of t-test for the equality of means and mean difference. Let's work on the statistic now. All right. In the SPSS file, for the t-test, first we have to click on Analyze, and then compare means, because we're looking for the mean differences among different groups. And here there are a few options. In the last lecture, we have a brief introduction and a brief recap on different types of the t-test. And here, because well, male and female are 2 different independent sample, so we have to choose independent sample t-test. For the one sample t-test, that is, as long as you have already have some known mean, such as IQ, in which that you have already known the basic, the benchmark is 100 score for the IQ. So well, what you want to do is you would like to compare your sample, whether fit with or having the mean differences with this known mean. And so in this case, you can perform one sample t-test. If sometimes while we are doing the time-lag longitudinal research design, we will collect the data from the same sample, but at different time point. You would like to see whether those variables at different time point have similar or the same mean. And so well, we have to do the pair sample t-test, because all the sample are the same, just collected the data at different time point. Anyway, now, well, because the samples are independent, So we have to work on the independent sample t-test. Click on it. And well, the independent variable, male and female, gender group is the independent variable. So well, we put gender group under the grouping variable, and we have to define the groups. Group 1 is 1 because well, we put 1 as the female in the data set, and 2 refers to male in the data set. And then we click continue. And we also need to input the dependent variable, that is emotional engagement and time 3 under the test variable, and click on OK. Because well, I cannot show you the SPSS output here, so we have to open the work file because I've already copy and paste the result to the work file, and so well, I can share this work file with you. Okay, please bear with me a second. All right, let me open it. Okay, here. The second question is the t-test. And so first, we have to look into the group statistic. From this table, you can see that well, the female, well, the mean score of emotional engagement and time frame for the female is 5.7788, while the mean score for the male in terms of the emotional engagement is 5.7225. So, well, we're not quite sure whether their means have a significant difference or not. So that's why, well, we have to refer to another table to make the conclusion. We have to refer to the independent sample test. And first, we have to look into the significance here. Because, well, the p-value is not significant, which is larger than 0.05. So well, we cannot reject the null hypothesis. We have to refer to the first row of the data score. The first row, the equal variance assumed. We have to look into this row. And next, we have to look into the significant level. And well, because this is larger than 0.05, the p-level is not significant. So well, we cannot reject the null hypothesis. We cannot reject the null hypothesis. In this case, well, we can conclude that the mean difference between the male and female in terms of the emotional engagement is 0.05633. This mean differences is not significant. And well, in such a case, we can conclude that the emotional engagement of female and male is the same because the mean difference, 0.05633, is too small, and we cannot find the significant difference between the two. All right, so we're back to the PowerPoint file. All right. As long as the research question is, well, whether there is a significant difference in emotional engagement for male and female employees, the answer is no. Then they do not have, there is no significant difference in the emotional engagement for male and female employees in this data set. All right. The next question is there a difference in emotional engagement for young, middle-aged, and old employees? Different from the early example that the IV only have two categories. In this case, although there is only one dependent variable, that is the emotional engagement and time free, but the independent variable age consists of three categories. In this case, we have to work on ANOVA test. What output that we have to refer to? First, we have to look into the descriptive table. We have to look into the mean score for the independent variables. And then we have to look into the test of the homogeneity of variance table. That is the Levene's statistic and the corresponding p-values. And finally, we need to look into the ANOVA table to see the F statistic as well as the p-values. Let's move on to the analysis here. All right, okay, analysis. All right, okay, for the ANOVA test, the procedure is first, we have to click on Analyze, Compare Mean. This time we choose one-way ANOVA. And well, for the independent variable, we choose age group under the factor because, well, that is the category, the free category, age group. And well, we have to put the dependent variable, that is the emotional engagement and time free, under the dependent list. On the right-hand side, options, we click on descriptive, homogeneity of variance test, Brown for signs, and also the wage. And well, if you like, you can also can have a plot here, plus continue. And next, well, in most of the cases, we will also like to see some specific information about the mean differences between different groups. So we click on post-hoc and choose Tukey and make sure that the significance level is 0.05 and click on continue and OK. Again, well, I have to open the work file. All right, here is the work file. Research question number 3. First, we look into the descriptive. The mean score for the young, middle-aged, and old employees are 5.6 something for the young group, 5.78 something for the middle-aged group, and 5.8 something for the old employees group. Again, we cannot make the conclusion that whether they have a significant difference in emotional engagement for the 3 groups unless we also look into other indicators. Next is the test of the homogeneity of the variance. From the Levene's test, we can see that the significant level is 0.076. And again, we cannot reject the null hypothesis. Next, well, we have to look into the ANOVA index. That is the most important index for the ANOVA test. Unfortunately, the p-value is not significant. It's not significant because the p-value is larger than 0.05. In this case, we can conclude that all the 3 groups, young, middle-aged, and old employee groups, they do not have the significant mean difference, well, amongst the 3 groups. If you want to reconfirm it, and well, we look into the post-hoc test. From the post-hoc test, we can reconfirm that there's no significant difference between any of the 2 groups of the 3 because no p-values is significant here. All right. In this case, let me see. All right, let me open it. Okay. And here. Okay. All right, in this case, and well, we can conclude that there is no significant difference in the emotional engagement for young, middle-aged, and old employees, unfortunately. All right, well, then let's move on to the next questions here. And here, as you can see that, well, the number 4 research question is, which is the best predictor of emotional engagement gender, age, education, and job tenure when controlling for the emotional engagement. And here, well, one thing that I would like to emphasize is it's different from the simple regression that we have already covered in the last lecture. And now because, well, we got a few independent variables, they are gender, age, education, and job tenure. So that's why we have to use what we call the multiple regression instead, because, well, there are multiple independent variables in this case. And in this example, we were also including the control variable of emotional engagement and time too. In most of the cases, because we would like to reduce the common method bias in the data analysis, we would like to see whether the dependent variable at earlier time will also affecting the dependent variable in the time that you're interested in, like T3, time 3 in this example. And so we would like to see whether, and we like to minimize the common method bias in the case. And so that's why we have to include the T2, the variable at T2 as the control variable. In some other analysis, if you got some of the other ideas that some other possible variable will also affecting the dependent variable, if it is the case, and you also need to put them as the control variable if you are not consider that these are the key variables in predicting your dependent variable in your research model. Anyway, control variable means that, well, it's something that will affecting your dependent variable, but in this data analysis, you don't want to see the effects, so that's why you have to control over the effects of those control variables. All right, well, what output that we would like to see for the regression analysis? Number one is the model summary, and we have to look into the R square if there is no control variable in your test, or the R square change if there is the control variable, as well as the p-value. Second, we have to look into the ANOVA and, well, to see the F statistic and the p-value, and to make a judgment that, well, whether this is overall speaking, whether this is, well, a significant good model or not. And number three is, well, we have to look into the B, that is the unstandardized or small letter b, the standardized coefficients, as well as the p-values. All right, let's work on the data analysis here. From your SPSS file, and first, well, we have to click on Analyze, Regression, and choose Linear. And, well, from this example, the dependent variable is emotional engagement at time 3. So we'll put it under the dependent box. For the independent, and please bear in mind that because we have to include the control variable, so we have to put the control variable before you're putting in the independent variable. So we put emotional engagement at time 2 in step 1. And we click on next, that is the step 2. And we put all the independent variable, including gender, age, education level, and job tenure in this case, under the independent box. And next, and, well, for the statistic, and make sure that you have to click on estimate model fit R square change and click on continue. For the option, we have to click on, well, the constant in equation, that is the intercept. Continue, and finally we click on OK. All right, again, well, let me show you the result. Okay, for the number 4 questions, we are trying to find the best predictor among a series of the independent variable in which also controlling for the emotional engagement at time 2. And so first, we have to look into the model summary. From here, you can see that, well, for the first step that we only put in the control variable, the R-square index is the same as the R-square index change. Yeah, it makes sense because, well, it doesn't make any change. It's just we'll put the control variable here. But, well, in step 2, after we put all the independent variable, and you can see that, well, the square change is different from the R square, because actually R square change is telling you that after you adding in all the independent variable and whether this independent variable will help in predicting the dependent variable. Unfortunately, in this case, you can see that the significant level here is larger than 0.05. It means that, well, they are not significant. And well, it seems that all the independent variable, it seems that when we are putting all the independent variable, and well, it doesn't help to predict the emotional engagement at time 3. And next, well, we also need to refer to the ANOVA table. And well, although it seems, well, significant, it seems that, well, overall speaking, the model is still okay, but unfortunately, we also need to refer to the correlation, the coefficients table to make the conclusion that whether the independent variable help in predicting the dependent variable. In this case, unfortunately, well, we cannot find any single of the independent variable, gender, age, education level, and also job tenure in predicting the dependent variable emotional engagement and time 3. So our conclusion is that well, we cannot find, well, any predictor in predicting the emotional engagement at time 3, while, well, we input all the independent variable and also control for the emotional engagement at time 2. All right. Well, if we look into, let me see, the data, no, the results here. And you can see that for the step 1, the correlation, it seems that the emotional engagement at time 2 will positively related to the emotional engagement at time 3 because, well, the significant level is less than 0.001. It means that, well, the emotional engagement at time 2 and time 3, they are closely related. So that's why you can see that, well, in most of the time, we like to control the effects of the dependent variable at earlier time, that is the t-1. So we'll to see whether to reduce the common method bias. All right, well, let me see here. Last but not the least, all right, and well, in the next section, I would like you to work on alone to have a more practice and exercise in the SPSS. And what you have to do is, well, for the exercise 1, and you use the same data set, week 6 exercise data set. And what you have to do is, well, again, well, very similar to this demonstration, because I want you to have a more practice. And we'll work on 4 questions, 4 analysis. First is the correlation. Second is the t-test. The third one is the ANOVA, and finally is the multiple regression. And well, more importantly is that, well, here, I would like you to work on the dependent variable as the physical engagement. In the organizational psychology, when we work on the work engagement, And well, there are three major dimensions for engagement when we are testing about the employees' engagement, whether they're being engaged in their work. The number one is emotional engagement. It means that whether they have psychologically attached it with their work, or the second one is the physical engagement, whether they really do something, put some effort into while doing their work. And number three is the cognitive engagement, whether in their mindset they also want to be engaged in their work. So now, well, for the exercise 1, as I said, that I want you to have a more practice, and so that's why, well, please work on the side. Please work on the physical engagement as the dependent variable in this exercise. Physical engagement, physical engagement, physical engagement. And so well, this exercise is very similar from my demonstration. So I hope that you will enjoy doing that. And well, after you work on this alone, and well, you can watch the videos for part 2. And so well, I will show you the analysis as well as the research output, the findings. Thank you.